At Mountain University, a zombie young man called Zed continues his physical education training so that he can become a great soccer player at the institution. At the same time, Ajin, an alien girl, is practicing her cheerleading routines with her teammates and trying to stay as focused as possible, as she wants to become the team captain. Far away, on one side of the mountain hit by the space rock, Nova continues training her apprentices, who are preparing to set off on a mission in search of the blood fruits, as the spice is becoming increasingly scarce. During her training, the young woman is called by her father, Bright, who says that if she really wants to become the next leader of the Light Wanderers, she must follow all his teachings. Soon after, the pair come across Ray, who asks to be part of the squadron that will set off in search of the blood fruits, and although reluctant, Commander Bright allows the young man to join. With everything ready, Nova announces that the next journey of the Light Wanderers is about to begin, and on the other side of the mountain, Vera and Vargas talk in the streets of Shadyside, the city of vampires. Suddenly, the pair are surprised by Victor, who reveals that he has found a blood fruit for his friends. However, before they can feed themselves, they are summoned by their leader Eldres, who tells them that the next harvest is about to begin. A long way away, Zed and his friends are driving to their summer vacation, but thanks to the noise he's causing with his cell phone call, Willa ends up getting annoyed. So that they can have some silence, the young werewolf throws the device out of the vehicle, leaving the young man indignant. Trying to calm her friends down, Eliza changes the subject, but at that moment the group crosses an invisible barrier, which damages Zed's device and awakens his zombie mode. Thanks to this, the young man ends up losing control of the vehicle, and after a few seconds, the university students have an accident, which leaves the car upside down. The group quickly goes outside and, sensing a strange energy nearby, Willa asks Eliza to accompany her so that they can check out what it is. At the same time, Zed and Addison comfort each other, and after saying goodbye, the pair split up to look for help. Within a few seconds of walking, the girl crosses another magical dome, allowing her to find the town of Shadyside, and without wasting any time, she decides to get closer. On the other side of the mountain, Zed passes through the invisible barrier, allowing him to come across the civilization of the Light Wanderers. Excited, the young man runs down to the beach, and when she comes across the invader, Nova charges at him, hitting him with a powerful blow. However, the group soon realizes that Zed is no threat, and Bright asks why her daughter hasn't eliminated him yet. Nova then replies that the university student doesn't even have vampire fangs, so they can trust him. Although reluctant, the man allows Zed to remain by their side, and orders the squad to set off towards the tunnel. At the same time, in the shadowy area nearby, Addison comes across the group of sinister vampires, and as soon as she notices the girl, Vera uses her storm powers to lift her into the air. At that moment, Victor realizes that she is not an enemy and dispels his friend's attacks, allowing her to return to the ground. Furious, Eldres asks why her subordinate hasn't eliminated the invader yet, but the young man replies that they should accept all the help they can get to harvest the fruit. Upon hearing this, the woman agrees with the idea and says that Addison has just been recruited into the vampire army. The group then continues their walk towards the harvest, but at that moment, Vera bumps into Victor, causing one of his drawings to fall to the ground. Curious, Addison asks who the girl is in that drawing, and the young man replies that he has no idea, and that he's only met her a few times in his dreams. After a few minutes of travel, both groups arrive at the large old orchard, and before they can reach the fruit, the Light Wanderers come across the squad of vampires. Realizing that they have the lead, Bright shouts for his warriors to run to the harvest area, being chased by their enemies. However, as soon as they arrive at the site, the armies come up against a great wall, which surrounds the area along with a mysterious gate. Believing that their enemies are responsible for the blockade, the Light Wanderers prepare to confront them, with the vampires doing the same, but before this can happen, Willa and Eliza appear and distract the groups. At the same time, Nova and Victor look at each other for the first time and realize that they are facing the person they saw in their dreams. Tired of all the confusion, Vera prepares to fly over the barrier, but Eliza stops her and throws a stone in the direction of the passage. Thanks to this, the magical beings discover that there is an energy field protecting the orchard, and Addison notes that it will take 3 keys to open the gate. At that moment, Bright orders the Light Wanderers to protect the gate, making the vampires furious, but before a fight breaks out, Addison uses her whistle to get their attention. The young woman suggests that she and her friends search for the keys together with the warriors from each of the squads, who must unite so that everyone has a chance to harvest. Zed adds that for this to happen, they must agree to share the harvest, so that they have enough food for everyone. Suspicious, Eldres wonders if they can really be trusted, and Addison explains that their group is made up of 2 zombies, an alien and a werewolf, so they are living proof that all magical beings can live in harmony. On hearing this, Bright decides to accept the group's terms and appoints Nova as the squad's commander from now on, prompting Eldress to accept the proposal as well. After that, the vampire leader appoints Victor as the head of this operation, and now that they have a plan, the armies split up to set up camp. Taking advantage of everyone's distraction, Bright asks Nova to collect all the blood fruits as soon as the gate opens, even if it means that all the vampires will be eliminated in the process. Confused, the young woman says that they had agreed to split the harvest, but the man explains that there won't be enough food for both groups, and Ray decides to support him. Although reluctant about the strategy, Nova promises that she will follow her father's orders and watches the gates as everyone moves away. Later, Zed and Eliza activate the camp's power generator, allowing all the warriors to rest around the huts. Noticing that the squads seem to be falling out, Zed hugs Ray and Vera, saying that he is excited to finally be able to take part in a camp with new friends. Thanks to this, the youngsters give up fighting each other, and start looking for clues to understand who the former owners of the place were. At that moment, Ray and Vargas notice that some of the huts have symbols of the Light Wanderers, while others have the symbols of the Shadyside vampires. Angry, the young man says that their enemies must have robbed and ruined that camp in the past, just like they do with all the other places they frequent. Vera then decides to mock the man, making everyone laugh at his despair. Minutes later, Nova finds a suitable resting place for her squadron, and while the armies set up their dormitories, Eliza prepares her laptop to take a reading of the barrier that damaged Zed's watch. Soon afterwards, the vampires head off to their sleeping coffins, and Willa asks them to get ready for bed. Trying to intimidate her, Vera asks why they should obey her orders, and she replies that unlike them, she doesn't just use her fangs to eat fruit. Frightened, the young vampires run to bed, and outside, after being helped to light a fire, Zed talks to Addison about the camp. At the same time, Nova goes out onto the balcony to look around, being watched by Victor, who, like her, is still disbelieving that he has finally found the person he has been seeing in his dreams all this time. The next day, the members of the Light Wanderers intimidate the young vampires with their solar magic, and to put an end to all the confusion, Willa scares them off with her fangs. Sometime later, Zed and Addison try to convince Victor and Nova to work together, but the members of the squads refuse, as both people hate each other. While discussing whether or not to ally for that mission, the armies find some metal rings near the camp, and when they throw them into a fire, they reveal one of the symbols on the gate. Without wasting any time, Nova moves the objects into the correct position, causing the mechanism to reveal the first key. Excited, the magical creatures run up to the Great Barrier, and are thrilled to notice that one of the doors has already been unlocked. At dusk, the Wanderers of the Light talk to the young vampires around the campfire, and Willa tells them that it's time for them all to sleep. So that they can form a friendship with their fellow campers, Victor and Nova wish their opposing squads good night, making the youngsters increasingly friendly with each other. With the army resting, Zed and his friends talk about their goals when they leave college, and the young man calls Addison to go and get some more marshmallows with him. Just then, a magical pulse runs through them once again, causing their monstrous personalities to be awakened, just as they were when they had the accident. Despite this, Addison manages to calm her friend down, and realizing that something is wrong, Eliza orders the group to follow her to her cabin. The young woman explains that the magical pulse has affected Zed's watch, as his device is highly sensitive, and as it is increasing in intensity, the magical attack could affect all the inhabitants of Seabrook in a short time. Worried, the young people try to think of a way to reverse the situation, and outside, Victor decides to call Nova to talk in a more secluded place, without even realizing that they are being watched by Ray. After a few minutes' walk, the pair arrive at an old abandoned cave, which has various symbols of both armies of magical beings. Observing the place, the youngsters realize that their people should become allies again, so that they can live together in harmony and enjoy the whole magical world freely. After dreaming about each other for so long, Victor and Nova go running and the vampire uses his storm powers so that the two can fly freely. Minutes later, the pair arrive at an abandoned tower, which has several mechanisms showing the phases of the moon, along with a fan that displays the colors of the rainbow. Believing that this could be the place that will provide them with the next key, Victor begins to organize the moon phases on the wall, while Nova drags the triangles to assemble the right order of the rainbow. Thanks to this, the pair get the second key to the next gate, and the next day, the leaders gather their squads to tell them the good news. Excited, Victor inserts the key into the lock, and after opening another of the gates, the group feels a powerful tremor, with the large symbol on the ground opening up. From within it emerges a large stone sphere with writing on it saying that only one of the groups can win the competition. In addition, the armies see the symbols of the vampires on one side of the mechanism, while the other contains the symbol of the Light Wanderers. As a result, they realize that the team that moves the stone to its own side will be the winner, taking all the harvest. Filled with rage after noticing that the alliance has broken, the members of each of the squads set out to push the stone sphere, and although they don't like what's happening, Victor and Nova rush to help their teams. Desperate, Zed and Addison try to get the armies to stop all this, at which point another pulse of energy is thrown at the group, causing the university students to have their powers manipulated once again. Realizing that he has lost his strength, Zed falls to the ground, and thanks to this, the creatures decide to end the confrontation, so that they can help the young man return to camp. At dusk, Eliza investigates her friend's watch and realizes that the device is starting to fry, saying that the young man could become a zombie for the rest of his life if they don't manage to put an end to the magic pulses. Suddenly, Eliza picks up something strange nearby, and asks her friends to accompany her, and outside, the trio walk a few meters to the source of the signal. As soon as they arrive at the marked point, Eliza notices that a large rock seems to be blocking the way, and Zed activates his zombie mode to remove the rock from there. To ensure that none of his friends are affected by the magical pulse, the young man decides to climb down alone, while his friends hold the rope. However, during the descent, the rope breaks, and at the same time, the ground around the hole gives way. As a result, Eliza and Willa fall into the cave with their friend, and when they hear the screams, the other students rush to their aid. At the bottom of the crater, Zed wakes up trapped under a huge rock, and to save him, the pair use their super strength, allowing the young man to free himself. Now that they have managed to recover, the trio come across a large tower, and as they approach it, they realize that the debris from the structure is hurting several bloodfruit roots. Eliza then says that the pulse was coming from that exact spot, and Willa tells them that it was nothing more than a cry for help from the roots. So, the youngsters prepare to remove the tower from the place, and hearing the trio's cries of effort, Addison manages to find them along with the entire magical army. Without wasting any time, Zed moves the structure with the help of all the vampires and wanderers of the light, and after much effort, they manage to remove the tower from above the roots. However, while Zed and his friends are celebrating their victory, the groups are soon back to hating each other once again, and tired of it all, Addison goes to a higher point and shouts to get everyone's attention. The girl says that they have already experienced the chaos that the world became when all the monsters turned against each other, and tells them that they can finally change history if they are willing to try. Both groups agree, but as they head back to camp, Ray goes up to Nova and starts questioning her about her recent behavior towards Victor. At that moment, Vera approaches to listen to the conversation, and when she finds out about the Light Wanderers' plan to steal their allies' share of the harvest, she becomes enraged and leaves without even hearing the rest of the discussion. Outraged by what she is hearing, Nova says that the vampires should no longer be considered their enemies, and explains that betraying them would be totally wrong. In addition, the young woman reminds the man that she is the true leader of the squad, and whatever her relationship with Victor, she owes Ray no satisfaction. Despite the intimidation, the young man maintains his stance and says that all the people of the City of the Wanderers of Light are counting on the success of this mission. The next day, the armies walk to the gates of the orchard, and noticing that one side of the mechanism bears the symbol of both groups, they decide to take the stone to the respective point. Thanks to this, the sphere opens, revealing the last key, which is contained in an amber brick. Despite trying to use their flaming powers to melt the ore, the Light Wanderers are unable to achieve the necessary heat, and to amplify the flames, the vampires use their storm powers. This allows the amber brick to finally be melted. Victor takes the key and puts it in the gate, causing the passage to be opened, and allowing all the members of the group to walk through the orchard to carry out the harvest. However, before they can start picking the fruit, the group is surprised by Bright and Eldress, who appear with squads of reinforcements. As he approaches his daughter, the commander of the Light Wanderers reveals that Ray told him about Nova's intentions, and says he is disappointed that she didn't obey his orders to betray them in the deal that was made. Upon hearing this, Victor becomes indignant, and Eldress tells him that he should severely punish his subordinate after all the decisions he has made so far. Tired of it all, Bright says it's time to put his plan into practice, and tries to attack the woman with his flames, but the vampire is quicker, and deflects the attack towards the orchard. Thanks to this, hundreds of meters are incinerated by the leader's attack, and the landscape of destruction leaves the young people desperate. At the same time, the roots of the fruit shoot another magical pulse in their direction, weakening Zed and his friends even more. Ray then reprimands his leader, but Nova says that it's all his fault, since he was responsible for the whole confrontation. Eldress then declares that from now on, the vampires have gone to war against the Light Wanderers, and Bright orders his soldiers to return to the city so that they can prepare. Minutes later, the young men take Zed and his group to the camp, where they begin to prepare their things to leave. Annoyed, Victor claims that Vera was to blame for everything Eldress caused at the harvest, and upon hearing this, the girl replies that she was just trying to keep everyone safe. The young man then replies that none of the group's actions were right, since they only betrayed those who were willing to help them. In one of the huts, the Seabrook University students try to find a way to cure the weakness caused by the magical pulse, and despite knowing that Zed is not well, Eliza asks them to accompany her to the tower once more, so that they can analyze the roots. The problem is that the recent damage has destroyed a large part of the orchard structure, and thanks to this, the pulses will increase exponentially. Just then, Victor and Nova appear and ask the young man to stay there until they can find a way to help him. Trying to apologize, Nova turns to Victor and says that she would never do anything that her father had planned, because she knows that there must be a big reason why their fates have crossed. Upon hearing this, the young man looks around and notices that part of the roots, as well as the orchard, are divided into two shades, which serve each of the respective groups. Soon afterwards, the pair notice that the tower has a kind of support, and they realize that they can insert the moonstones from their cities to feed the orchard, and make sure that all the blood fruits are recovered. With a new plan in mind, the group meets up with the rest of the magical warriors and devises a strategy to capture the valuable items from their armies. Hours later, the leaders wait until the squads have left their cities and set off to capture the moonstones. Victor quickly uses his storm to knock out the guards, and before he can leave, he is intercepted by Vera. With no time to lose, he tells her that he is doing all this to protect his people, because he knows that the only way to achieve peace is to work together with his allies. Upon hearing this, Vera feels relieved, and after ordering her friend to run away, she uses her powers to take down the soldiers once again. In the center of the City of Light Wanderers, Nova runs up to the moonstone pedestal, and after a quick hand-to-hand fight with the security guards, she manages to steal the object. Meanwhile, in the orchard, Bright and Eldress notice that the place is empty, and as they run to the tower, they come across their squads hiding the entire harvest. Quickly, the university students try to defend the group with their powers, but they are already too weak and end up falling to the ground. At the same time, Nova and Victor confront the leaders, and so that they can put an end to it once and for all, Ray activates his Phoenix mode, distracting the leaders with his flames. Soon after, Victor uses his storm cloud to protect himself from Bright and Eldress's projectiles, and when he notices that the tower's structure is starting to crack, Zed rushes to hold it up. Although he knows that there will be no turning back if he does this, the young man decides to activate his zombie mode, allowing him to keep the entire structure standing. When they reach the top, the pair insert the moon rocks, generating a powerful pulse that knocks them away. Soon after, the magic rocks create a huge storm above them, and as soon as the rain starts, all the roots begin to heal, along with Zed, who has his body reinvigorated. Realizing that they have managed to save the entire orchard, the young people celebrate non-stop while thousands of blood fruits grow all around them. Excited, Nova and Victor say that their ancestors built this place to celebrate the union between all peoples, and in order to maintain this balance, they must bring the stones to this place once a year. Finally, the pair meet up with their superiors, who hug them proudly after witnessing it all. Sometime later, the vampires and the Wanderers of the Light live in complete harmony, protecting the ancient orchard in an unbreakable alliance from now on. Far away, Zed and Addison meet up with Eliza and Willa, so that they can finally return to Seabrook, and on the beach, Victor meets up with Nova once again. However, during their conversation, the young people are surprised by a gigantic waterspout, which appears in the ocean in front of them, indicating that although they have achieved peace, they must prepare themselves, because a new threat is approaching. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.